Welcome to ShiftWatch. I'm your host, Starbuck. In this week's episode, Jeanne found her way here by way of Elle in Hawaii. This clip is from a session we had together where she was explaining how she had finally connected her dots from 1997, including Starseeds, stargating through her, and her trip inside Mt Shasta in 2005 with its limitations. It illuminates the real challenge moving forward, dealing with one's fear reflexes to experiences foreign to them because there's leveling up awaiting us. Next, just as that Geostorm brushed Earth last week with its unparalleled result, the evidence is pointing to that solar activity as the cause for Hurricane Beryl. So far, the hurricane is setting records for the furthest storm east to develop this time of year, the earliest Category 4 storm on record in that area, and the strongest to ever hit those Caribbean islands. Never mind the pace at which it accelerated, and it's not over yet. Then, with all the Lemurians reassembling, I thought I would bring more life in Telos to light. So here is the section regarding communications and computers in Telos, as narrated by Sharula Duck's Lemurian princess. And finally, Atlantean crystals that have been dormant are activating. They've been waiting for the right energetic conditions to be met, and here we are. Maya describes the different variations of crystals still embedded in the original veins in the earth, as well as those on your altar and in your hand.
So today was the first time I connected all of the dots in my story. From the time of 1997, when my mom died, and I had visions that I was to create the City of Lights. And then I had a vision that I had actually a line of people that were coming through me, they weren't, coming to me. It was through me. I was a Stargate that they were coming through. I didn't know what it was at that time. And it's just coming all together here now. And the first time I was on Mount Shasta, I was sitting on a chair and was taken down in to the mountain. But it was very clear I was not to have contact. I was just there to witness. And so, yet there was one being. We caught each other's eye. We knew we were not to speak or to be acknowledging anything, but we both connected. We connected. And,
how long ago was that, Jeanne? Just for a frame of reference.
Yep, that was probably in 2005, around 2005.
Because I know there was a period that they were still, we're happy being sequestered.
Exactly. Yep.
And that was, they were protecting their energy.
Yep.
Yeah. Shit's changed.
Yep.
Whoa.
Yeah. That same time, I was guided to a stone and I was to open the mountain, is what I was told. There was another woman with me. And I was playing it like an instrument, and it was to open the mountain. What happened with that is there was so much fear with the group that I was with that I was told then to go back up and close it down again. So I did. I closed it down again. And then that was the very first time I was there. That was my first connection with the mountain. That I remembered. I'll say it that way. So
that's the real challenge. You just spelled out the real challenge moving forward. Is that this reflex for everybody to be afraid of something that they're unfamiliar with?
Right.
I don't have a magic wand for that for others.
Right.
And I really can't tell you how I achieved my total lack of fear, but I did.
Yep.
And that's why I see and realize the things I do, because I'm not afraid of things I didn't understand. Never mind that I didn't understand any of these multidimensional experiences before.
Right.
So they were going to tease us with the simple ones because they're just getting used to that. They're helping us get used to these new vibrations and conditions because there's other levels to level up to.
Correct.
Good afternoon, folks. Going to make a big claim here, but I'll bring receipts, not just for the science, but because it was predicted to happen. The sun absolutely triggered this record Hurricane Beryl entering the Caribbean now. Before we dive into some specifics, let's re-watch this video from February with special attention paid to the prediction at the end. We'll come back to recap and dig a bit deeper afterwards. Enjoy. When the sun unleashes a coronal mass ejection, a CME, and it impacts the Earth, it excites the magnetic field and triggers electromagnetic activity below throughout the atmosphere. This video is from NASA, and the purpose of the video was meant to describe some of the ways that the sun drives the winds and the ocean currents. It does this by impacting the direct heating of the atmosphere and the electric currents of the global electric circuit. But even NASA's video doesn't cover or even mention that this forcing extends to nearly every aspect of the weather. We have seen the hundreds of papers on how solar activity impacts wind, ocean activity, clouds, rain, lightning, snow, temperature, humidity, and so it should not be surprising that it also impacts the strongest storms in the world, the tropical systems, hurricanes, cyclones, and typhoons. This was one of the key aspects of one of the articles we featured earlier today in the morning show. The electrical phenomena of the atmosphere is gaining more and more attention. Where it was once thought to all be about temperature directing pressure in the air masses, scientists now know it is a much more dynamic process. For those who are new here, in Chapter 5 of our textbook, there is a good deal of information about the sun's impact on major tropical storm systems, and extratropical storms for that matter. There are studies that confirm this connection with solar flares, solar wind data, solar energetic proton storms, and of course, geomagnetic storms from when the CMEs impact our planet. And as they discover this more and more, it extends to the extratropical regions and even severe thunderstorms over land. Many of you remember Ferris Wald, who won the National Science Championship for proving that coronal hole streams and tropical cyclones were related, a pretty amazing feat for a middle school student. And since our textbook came out, there have been several follow-up studies that only bolster the previously discovered connection between the sun and tropical systems. Ones like this have even suggested it's not just the formation and intensification of those storms, but they're likely tracks to landfall that are impacted by the sun. Other studies dive deep into specific regions of the ocean and find all the same, while also driving into the mechanistic action of how it all works. So this morning's paper, while exciting to see, was not unexpected. Indeed, there are no countervailing studies in the last several years questioning this connection, and yet the sun's impact on storms remains outside of all climate models. It's a shame. But whether it is a solar flare juicing up the atmosphere, the solar wind pressure forcing Van Allen electrons downward, or the geomagnetic storm activity spreading across the globe, the global electric up and down circuit becomes excited, and as we discussed in a video just a few days ago, that electric circuit activity impacts the pressure cells, wind, clouds, and more. Later this year, the sunspot cycle will be peaking as hurricane season rolls around in the Atlantic and Eastern Pacific, and we will all get an excellent opportunity to see just how much the sun works these great storms in real time. I'll see you in the morning for the daily show. Be safe, everyone. Well, it's hurricane season now. We had the first serious geomagnetic storm of the period on June 28th, and during its impact on the atmosphere, just as predicted, just as we've been showing for several years, it triggered the first serious hurricane. And serious doesn't really do it justice. It was the furthest east storm at this time of year to form, the earliest Category 4 on record in the Atlantic Basin, and the strongest to ever hit these islands. Furthermore, its pace of intensification is utterly unprecedented. As of midday today, it's still intensifying. So let's go a bit deeper on the background. The papers on solar storm forcing of tropical activity have been more numerous in the last decade than in the entire history of science that came before. Once the door was opened, it was like a flood, with literally every study looking at the topic finding the same thing. Solar storms impact the tropical systems in a significant way, with special attention being paid to the geomagnetic aspect. That's what we just had happen this past week. Studies have even gone back in time and found major correlations, like with Hurricane Katrina, the super outbreak in 2015 during a similarly strong solar storm surge, the triple storm system in 2017 that followed the largest solar storms of cycle 24, and even elsewhere in the Pacific, where Haiyan broke records on the heels of a powerful solar flare and magnetic crochet event in the atmosphere resulting from it. Also noteworthy, the tropical storm Chris has formed during this period this week, currently pounding Mexico, and by the way, the average third-named storm of the year usually happens around early August. This has been the quintessential event we were talking about in literally every way you can slice it. Remember, every tropical storm is impacted by the global electric circuit, and every aspect of space weather affects that circuit. 4 months ago, we said to watch for major hurricanes to be triggered by solar storms, and that's literally what is happening as we speak. Solar maximum is in full stride. Hurricane season is here. Expect more in the months ahead.
Our communication center, where we have monitored not only all communications within our city, but also communications that are coming from other guardian cities, communications that are coming from off-planet spots, and we have also monitored surface communications from the point that there ever was surface communications. We have monitored radio and television waves. Another building that's very important to us is our computer building. In Telos, as with the other subterranean cities, our computers are run by an organic substance. Therefore, in essence, the computers live. They no longer run off a program that is strictly binary, but they run off what is called a multi-tracking program. Thus they are multi-tracking computers. Thus the computers are able to pick up akashas, past lives. They're able to monitor a human body and see what's amiss. They're able to read the aura. They're able to pick up communications happening clear across the galaxy. Thus, most of our life, or a good portion of our life, depends on these computers, these organic multi-tracking computers, which keep us in touch with not only talking to different people on the city, not only with the computer telling us what our physical needs are at the moment by monitoring our bodies, but also the computers are able to play our soul notes, which is able to produce in many subjects, such as meditation, taking us to higher and higher levels all the time. The computers are able to run our past lives when necessary for us, so that we are able to learn from mistakes that we have made in the past and forgotten. The computer is able to communicate with us on a soul level. Mostly important is the computers interconnect with other multi-tracking amino-based computers throughout the planet and throughout the cosmos as far as that's concerned. And they all operate off a Christ mind, which means the computers cannot be corrupted. They can never be used to spy on somebody. They can be used to monitor somebody for their own goodwill or for their own good. They can never be used to produce harm to another living entity. They cannot be used for any of the dark purposes. The computer simply won't cooperate, which has also been another way of Agartha cities and such taking a stand that they would not corrupt the light by very much taking this attitude that if it does not match the Christ mind, in other words, if the computers disagree, don't do it. It has been a way of, shall I say, retraining our aggressive techniques, retraining our tendencies to want to do unto another and split, retrain many of our other snooping tendencies and such. So we have come to depend upon these quite a bit. But again, even on a computer, it's not a matter of having the computer do it for you. It's a matter of learning from it. Learning from a form of the Christ mind there that you can see tangibly.
The following is a synopsis of information from Thoth intelligence I originally received on Atlantean crystals in 1994. All Atlantean crystals remaining on and in the planet are beginning to activate on a new level of consciousness. They are the seed crystals for alignment of the earth and human element to the light grid of the third millennium, that is the future time wave. Now, again, I've mentioned this before, millennium is a word that can be confusing as used here, but Thoth is not referring to 100 years. I don't know why he actually uses the word millennium in this context, but he has for many years. First, second, and third millennium are aspects of the time wave integration that we are receiving. So we changed it ourselves. First millennium was in sync with the time wave. Second millennium is not. And that's what we're in right now. And that was caused mainly by the time tsunami of Atlantis that took us out of that synchronization. And the third millennium is moving us back into that time wave synchronization with the Rana time wave. And that is basically when we are in the new Earth star. Perhaps a little bit before, as we really become harmonized within the Pyraminus radius. So to continue. Many of these crystals are now in etheric retreats and the inner earth, but some are still in circulation upon the surface of the planet. During the age of Atlantis, especially in its last years, most of these crystals were transported to other sacred areas of the planet to perpetuate the Earth's connection to the atosic light grid or true light matrix of our spiritual creation. Although the Earth has fallen from alignment with this grid, we maintain contact points through various sources left us by the ancients. Among these are the Atlantean crystals and dweller crystal skulls. Both will open the scroll to a new dimensional reality potential in their communication with the planet. There are several main types of Atlantean crystals. Implanted crystals, these are crystals brought from Atlantis and physically implanted into the earth at various locations, usually upon power nodes. These would qualify as installations. Transference crystals, these are also installations, They are crystals still within the veins of the earth. They have had the light codes of various sacred knowledge and other planetary continuum of the Atlantean programs encoded within crystal matrices in the earth, which are part of a vein Thoth calls Merlin's mine. Now he's just giving them that name to help us understand its role. However, the entity Merlin did connect very directly to this energy frequency, and that's another story. The crystals within Merlin's mine contain light program encoding of various stratum for planetary transformation, one of which is Atlantean. Interfaced or insertion crystals. These are ordinary crystals which have been programmed to interface with the Atlantean stratum of the Merlin mine or other stratum of this matrix. Using any crystal that has been cleared of negative influence, you may tap the Atlantean crystal matrix, which is a light net connecting all the Atlantean crystals to the greater Atosic universal light grid. This was an ongoing larger project by the Illuminate ones who guardian the earth. That's a broad title because there are many factors of that, many aspects of the hierarchy, as we like to call it, that were involved. But there was one focal point that said, let's do this. Let's create an ongoing project that allows the crystalline veins of the earth to receive these energies to help humanity in the future. And boy, do we need it now.